The Primal Diet. The Primal Diet is a diet. Primal Diet is a diet that a man by the name of Aajonus Vonderplanitz came up with a few decades ago, when he was able to discover that he could heal people with various ailments, anywhere from arthritis to cancer, purely by nutrition. And and his whole thesis was that uh, any of these sicknesses that came about were a result of toxic accumulation in the body, and that the ailments that came about from this toxic accumulation was the body essentially fighting and eating away at the toxicity that existed in the body. And so if you just provided the body with the proper nutrients and nutrition, the proper diet, it would stop all these viruses, it would stop all these ailments that the individual felt, and the body would be able to properly process both the food that it was ingesting, get nutrition from it, and be able to heal itself and remove all the toxicity that had accumulated from a cooked diet, as he called. So the Primal Diet really focuses on being completely raw, and by that, raw means that it is unheated, it is not frozen, and in turn, it is at the most natural state that it can be. So it hasn't been messed around with, it hasn't been manipulated at all. And that state is the optimal state, because that state has digestive enzymes, it has bacteria, it has parasites, it has germs, it has all the nutrients and minerals, as well as all of these types of um, bacteria and whatnot that the body actually needs. The body needs to both get rid of the toxicity within the body, as well as be able to properly absorb the nutrition that is in the raw foods. Uh, so his whole focus was on, so that this kind of goes back to our specific diet that we have. The typical general diet that we currently consume is a cooked diet, which entails freezing food. Almost all food that we eat is frozen. Freezing the food, which just from the freezing itself is killing off a ton of enzymes, is killing off a ton of bacteria, which they say is good, but actually all of this bacteria is actually very beneficial for the body, and the body knows exactly how to utilize the bacteria in order to provide a proper health to the individual. So all of our food is frozen to some degree, and on top of that, we cook it. We heat it up at very, very high temperatures, which completely denatures the food, the nutrients of the food. Yo.
I'll put myself on mute.
Okay. Which completely denatures the food, and in denaturing the food, the body isn't properly able to digest, process, and absorb the nutrients of the food. And because it's been denatured, there's a lot of residue, there's a lot of toxicity that comes out of this as a byproduct of the body attempting to digest the food, which ends up creating all this toxicity that is then accumulated, which ends up resulting in viruses, ailments, illnesses, and things like cancer. And so the basis of cooked foods, which is, it's 100% prevalent in all modern life nowadays, is actually wreaking havoc on our health. And it's not allowing us to grow bacteria in the body. It's not allowing us to properly digest the food, and so we're accumulating all this toxicity, which is unable to be properly disposed of because we're not having the proper nutrients. We're not having a high fat raw diet, and so the toxicity accumulates, and the body has to resort to allowing worms to exist, parasites, if they can even exist, because most of the food that we're getting is completely denatured, as well as viruses coming up, the flu, all these other ailments that we have, in a way to counteract this toxicity. And so this is kind of the state that we live in, this cooked food state, which is actually slowly destroying our body and accumulating very harmful toxins. And so the solution to all of this is, and what Aajonus believed, is the raw primal diet, or the primal diet as he likes to call it, in the sense that we finally, instead of denaturing the food, instead of freezing it, instead of heating it up, we're able to actually eat it at its most natural state and receive the beneficial germs, the beneficial bacteria, parasites, worms, as well as the nutrition that the body is able to properly digest and assimilate. And in turn, the body begins to finally work the way that it should have worked from the beginning. So it starts to clean up all the toxins that the body has accumulated from a cooked diet. It begins to clean up the residue. Parasites begin to come about, germs, worms, bacteria. There's like a new life that begins to happen within your body. And people that are uninformed think that this is a horrible occurrence and that you need to kill it and you need to take all these pills and medications to kill the bacteria, when in reality you want them to thrive as much as possible, because the body will then use that bacteria, use those worms, use those parasites, use those germs to start cleaning itself from the toxicity. So the primal diet consists of raw meats, which includes raw meat, raw fish, raw chicken, raw lamb, any protein in its raw state. So completely unheated, completely uncooked, as natural as possible, preferably if it hasn't been frozen, because when you freeze any type of food, you destroy somewhere upwards of like 60 to 70% of the nutritional value. And that's not even talking about the enzymes and all the healthy bacteria and whatnot that also are killed as a result of freezing the food. So getting it as naturally as possible, raw protein, and then raw dairy as well. So raw dairy includes raw milk, raw unsalted cheese, raw unsalted butter, raw kefir, raw cream, and the reason for it being unsalted is
because salt actually ends up creating a lot of damage and internal stress to the body. So Aajonus highly recommends that any type of foods that you eat have they be unsalted, specifically butter and cheese, as most supermarkets, farms, even any health organic food stores add salt to their products. And when you're on a raw diet, you're gonna end up realizing that salt is really not needed at all. There's barely any need to add salt to anything, because you get your fix of anything that you need, that you require, and adding spices, adding salts to the raw food is it's just there's no need.
so raw protein, raw dairy, unheated raw honey, and the other two is fruits and vegetables, which Aajonus talks mostly about. Obviously you could eat fruit in its raw state because it is raw. You could also make juices. He likes juices, both fruit juices as well as vegetable juices. vegetable juices in particular because they are very rich in enzymes. So you would normally, if you want, you eat a typical Primal Diet meal, and then about an hour later, you would consume a vegetable juice that has been like juiced or blended up with the pulp and kind of like the fiber aspect of the vegetable separated, so that you're just drinking the straight up juice. And that's enzymes that would go. The reason for an hour later is because the vegetable juice very quickly goes down into your stomach and starts working almost immediately. So you want to be drinking it at a time where there's already food that you've just ingested is in the body, so the enzymes can start going to work. And so what you're doing with the fruit juice is more of like a astringent. It's like a cleanser. It's a detoxifier. So when you do drink your juice, you want to be drinking it before and after. You want to be having a lot of fat around it, because the raw fat, is very important in absorbing all the toxins that the body is eliminating and taking them out of the system. So as the fruit juice starts to detoxify your system, you're going to want to be eating a lot of fat around it to be able to properly get rid of all the toxins. So the fruit juice and the vegetable juice is more like a soothing agent. It provides you with enzymes. It provides you with healing your system, while the fruit juice is more of like a like a Clorox type of thing, where it goes in, it starts cleaning all the junk off. It's quote unquote kind of like acidic, which is in a good sense good for what you're trying to do. And then you combine it with eating a very high fat diet. So what fats would you eat, which you should be eating daily in this diet? That includes raw fat of the protein. So in particular, something like meat, where there's a lot of cuts that have all that fat in the meat. You want to be eating that all the time. You want to be eating raw unsalted cheese, very high in fat, raw unsalted butter. And those types of food sources are very high in fat, and they allow you to not only have fuel, because your body's going to be running on fat, not only have fuel, but also be able to start detoxifying your system properly. And so that's kind of the basis of the diet itself. And it's all made to provide your body with the ability to rebuild itself, to regenerate cells, to get stronger, aka through the raw meat, through the raw protein, to be able to lubricate the body, to be able to allow detoxification to actually exit your body, which is the raw dairy, as well as soothe your body. And then you have the vegetable juice, and then obviously the unheated honey, which is just added enzymes that just kind of begins to populate your body with enzymes that have been leached from decades of eating cooked foods. And then the vegetable and fruit juices, which are kind of there for various ailments that you might have. For various, it's kind of like a medicine of sorts, where if you need more enzymes, then you have vegetable juice. If you know that you need to kind of clean your system out, you drink more fruit juice. And so when you start the diet, what you're going to notice is that you're, for the most part, going to be eating a lot of raw meat, but you're also going to want to be eating a lot of raw fats, because your body hasn't had the ability to properly release and remove all of the toxicity that has accumulated in your body. And so you need to be eating really high in raw unsalted fats to allow your body to start detoxifying itself. And the way that the detoxifying kind of happens in terms of like how you feel is, you might start feeling some chills. There's many different ways. None of it, which I would say is at all worrisome or dangerous at all. It's just, you feel different at times. And that's just, your body going to work, your body finally having the nutrients to be able to do what it should have been doing from the beginning. And in turn, if you really start the diet and you really start it both with the raw protein and the raw dairy, which I think is like the two core tenets, the main tenets of this primal diet, is that you start feeling fucking great. You know, you feel light, you feel clear headed, you could think properly. You never have digestive problems. I don't have. I've been in the diet for a month and I have no stomach pains at all. I don't. You know, I haven't had the need to throw up. Um, there has been almost zero problems with going to the bathroom, with everything. I mean, it's just, it's just that it's pretty amazing in terms of our assumption of what eating raw would actually uh, do to our body, in the sense that the mainstream view is you eat raw, especially raw meats, and you're going to die. Whether it's because you're ingesting bacteria, you're going to get salmonella, you're going to get E. coli, you're going to get all these bacteria, which the thing is you are getting them, and you're getting them in your system. And at times you might feel a little weird because it's all of these bacteria are finally, coming and they're eating your gut, they're eating your toxins. But they're not bad. They're not going to kill you. They're not going to kill you at all. And I've been doing it for a month and it hasn't killed me yet. And I've been eating meat from the supermarket, ground beef, which everyone freaks out about, and it's been completely fine. It's been, if anything, it's been amazing. It feels great. And so the whole diet, it really changes your whole view of both society and also health, in that it flips the germ theory completely on its head. And that germ theory is the theory that all of the medical system is basically based upon, which is that germs, specific germs, but mostly almost any germs, are they create disease. And so what happens if you have an ailment? So let's say you have flu, or you have freaking, I don't, whatever ailments you might have, digestive problems, whatever it is that you have a problem internally. What does the medical system do? The medical system looks at it, studies, gets a culture of your poop, or figures out like what's going on in your body and says, oh my gosh, you have all this bacteria, or oh my gosh, you have all these parasites, or oh my gosh, you have all these worms. And so they look at that and they say, this is bad. This is not good. We need to kill those worms. We need to kill those bacteria. We need to kill those parasites. And so they give you medicines so that the medicine can start killing all these worms, these parasites, and these germs under the germ theory, which is, they believe, causing your illness. So they kill all of that. But what happens? You don't, if anything, you get worse, because the problem hasn't been fixed. The problem was not the germ. The problem was your toxicity. How much toxicity you have in your body, how much toxicity you've accumulated in your body. And so why are the worms there? Why are the parasites there? Why are the bacteria, the germs in there? Because they're trying to clean out your fucking gunk. They're literally trying to clean out your gunk. They're there to help you. But the germ theory has made us think that it's like some horrible thing. So instead of seeing the bacteria in there as like a helper and helping the body, basically if you have like a lot of bacteria in your body, that clearly means, one, either there's something wrong, or there's nothing wrong. It's just that your body has this bacteria that is helping it, do whatever the body needs it to do. If the body didn't need it, it would kill it off. And so instead of seeing the bacteria as like a good thing, as like a potential ally, the medical system sees it as an enemy, and so it just kills it. And so what ends up happening? The worms, the parasites, all this bacteria that was there to help you ends up being destroyed, which makes it even more difficult for the body to start to heal itself from all this toxicity that you continue to feed it. And so what ends up happening is, maybe you might feel better from whatever problem you had, digestive issues or not, maybe for a few days, a few weeks, but then it comes back. And sometimes it usually comes back, and it comes back even worse. And it can come back in many other ways, because the problem has gotten worse. Because now you don't have all this bacteria, you don't have all these germs, you don't have all these parasites that were were protecting you in some case. They were actually limiting, the likelihood of you getting worse health wise. Now they're not there. They're not, the protection is not there. So now the toxicity doesn't have, it's not getting eaten. It's not getting, ejected from the body. And so it just starts wreaking even more havoc. And unfortunately, because of the germ theory, I mean, it's just, the health of humans is just getting worse and worse and worse. And what happens, big pharma is fucking just making a killing out of it because, and I think they know about this. I'm pretty sure they know. Maybe they don't, but either way, I mean, the germ theory is completely debunked in this type of diet. And so what's the way that you heal your body? The way that you heal your body, especially if you have any ailments, is you understand that the bacteria is there for a reason, that the body wouldn't let it, freaking procreate and expand throughout your body if it wasn't there for a specific reason. And instead of trying to kill it with medications, instead of trying to freaking treat it with chemicals and all that bull crap that the system tells you to treat it with, you treat it with a raw diet. You treat it with giving your body the proper nutrients so that it can regenerate your cells through the raw protein. And so it could start removing the toxins with the raw dairy and the raw fat properly, because it's actually getting proper nutrition. It's not cooked. It's not denatured food. It's not, the body doesn't have a hard time digesting it. Like now it's actually easy. So all the ailments start to go away. And the bacteria that you thought was bad probably increases. Why? Because you have so much toxicity that your body is, all these parasites and all the bacteria and germs that you're getting from your raw meat, from raw dairy, because there's a lot of bacteria in raw dairy, and all these raw foods are repopulating your system. You're getting the good nutrients, and so your body has the ability to fight back, much easier than in the past, because you actually have, hello, hey, because your body has the arsenal, the tools, the weapons. It's healthy. It's getting the energy, it's getting the energy that it needs to do what it has to do to make you healthy and thrive and survive. Because your body wants to continue going, wants to continue living. It doesn't want to freaking have to deal with digesting undigestible food. It doesn't want to have to deal with all the bullshit that you're putting into it. And it's very upsetting, kind of, once you really start in this diet and you kind of start seeing society, and it's like nobody realizes they're just like poisoning themselves. They're just kind of like slowly destroying themselves, and their body is taking the brunt of the attack. And so what happens? Mental problems come about, physical problems come about. You feel depressed. Things just don't go your way. Relationships don't work out because you're not functioning at 100%. You're not functioning at 100%, 110%, because you're not getting the proper nutrition. Your body is having to deal with digesting all this undigestible, completely processed, heated up food. And so what's going to happen? It's going to be more difficult for you to grow muscle. It's going to be more difficult for you to provide a lot of energy for your brain. It's going to be more difficult for you to just be healthy. All the luxuries that come about from a healthy person are very difficult to get, because the body's still dealing with, how the fuck do I get nutrition from this diet? And so it's and the reason why I'm like have become such a madman recently, and I literally went from eating like a paleo cooked diet, which even then when I was eating it, I was like, there's some, like, this is not it. This is definitely not the diet that I should be eating. I don't know what it is, but it's just, this is not it. And then when I found this diet and I read We Want to Live by Aajonus Vonderplanitz, which I recommend everybody reads, it was like, that was it. That was like the light bulb went off, and I was like, this is the diet. 100% more than certain this is the diet. I didn't research anything about the health effects of potential, bacteria in the raw meat. I didn't care. Why? Because intuitively I got it. My intuition, which I believe is supercharged by the cultivation of energy, saw this light, this signal, and my body was like, yeah, let's go. Let's do a fucking 180, turn completely the opposite way. And so it's a lot of ailments that I had, even me myself, which for I was eating a very, very healthy diet, I still have ailment. And many of the ailments probably weren't being shown because it tastes healthy. So the the accumulation of the toxins that I was getting was not going to be shown until much later in life. Maybe 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, but it was going to be shown because the toxins continue to accumulate. If you're not eating the proper diet, the toxins will continue to accumulate, and the body will do whatever it needs to do to store it, whether it's store it through fat reserves, store it as a tumor, store it in your bones and your organs. But it's going to get to a point where it's going to have viruses to come and like try to kill some of it. But if you're not feeding it the right amount of food, like the right nutrients, it's going to start breaking down. And when it starts breaking down, what's going to happen? You're going to run to the medical system. The medical system's going to just fuck you up even more. And then your body's just going to be like, your body's just constantly fighting the battle of modernity, which is really, that's what we're fighting for. We're fighting against the modern system, which thinks it's extremely smart, thinks that they're geniuses, thinks that they're fucking intelligent, when in reality they're anything but. And it's a very crazy state of affairs that that we need to read a fucking one book. I mean, that's all it takes. You read that book and you're gonna be like, I'm completely on board. And you just see the people that are on it. You see everybody that is on it. None of them look malnourished. None of them look ugly. None of them look, their skin is radiant. They have great hair. They look great. You see their energy. Their energy looks amazing. You actually see them glow. They're actually glowing. And you very rarely see people glowing nowadays. Very, very rarely. Because nobody's getting the right nutrients. And so it's
And so if you're interested in learning more about the raw diet, the raw primal diet, if you're interested about learning about Aajonus Vonderplanitz, I would highly recommend you read We Want to Live by Aajonus Vonderplanitz. He has a few other books, recipe books and whatnot, that go in depth not only about the diet, but also about how to make the diet maybe more appealing in the beginning. Because what happens is we're so used to artificial flavoring, we're so used to food coloring, different seasonings, because the system knows almost scientifically how to keep you engaged and hooked on their foods. And so it's gonna take a while if you're to kind of get away from that and get away from those types of cravings and really discover your own body and discover how you, as a human being, really are supposed to eat. And this is one of the great things about the raw primal diet, is that you're going to really become in touch with your body, and you're going to know exactly what it wants. And it's not going to be processed foods. It's not going to be Oreos. It's not going to be Cheetos. It's not going to be McDonald's. It's going to be real healthy food that is making you stronger, that is making you uh, clearer, it's making you lighter, it's making you healthier, it's healing you. And this is what it's all about having a diet that really provides you with benefits, as opposed to the opposite, which unfortunately all of these cooked diets, all of them, doesn't matter if it's vegan, doesn't matter if it's all meat, doesn't matter if it's only meat, all of them, all cooked diets are bad. And that doesn't mean you can't eat some cooked foods. It just means you have to understand that your body just cannot digest it the way that it should. And this programming has fallen man for thousands of years, and it's just continued. And it's continued, and as we continue to see, the more technologically advanced we get, the weaker we become. And we must rise from the ashes and understand from the brothers and sisters that came before us, that learned and studied and went through hell, to be able to provide us with this wisdom. And fortunately, we have Aajonus Vonderplanitz, who provided just such great wisdom, life-changing wisdom, and it is up to us to figure out whether we should adopt it or not. And you could start, small, obviously, or or you could do what I did, which was jump right in and figure out if it's gonna work or not.